Gamer Braves.
What's up everyone, this is Wan Amirul from Gamer Braves, and we did it! We got to play Tekken 8! I got to go to the Bandai Namco Entertainment offices in Singapore and try out an early build of Tekken 8. Admittedly, Tekken has always been in a weird spot on my favorites list because when I think of Tekken, I think of how very defensive Tekken 7 is. Like, there's no denying it. It's why there's the meme that all Tekken players do is just KBD at each other until someone makes a mistake. Tekken 8 said no, we're not doing that anymore. I got to talk to Harada-san and Mike, and they were very adamant about the fact that Tekken 8 is a game about aggression. And apparently the way they've done that is they've turned Tekken into an anime fighter. And I'm all for it. A huge part of how all this works is the heat system. I saw Harada-san's presentation about the heat system and I immediately thought it was kind of something like KOF's max mode where you could kind of use it like a Roman cancel. But surprise surprise, that's actually not the case. For those of you who are unfamiliar, there are two ways to go into heat mode. The first one is called heat burst, where you just do it in neutral. And the other one is called heat engage, which is where certain moves will have the heat engage property and put you into heat mode after that. I thought that you could do something safe like a jab and confirm into a heat engage and then go into heat mode. But the game actually says no, you cannot combo into heat engage. If you do a move with a heat engage property in a juggle, it will just not activate the heat engage. Now at first I was kind of bummed about this because any game that has Roman cancels is A+ in my book, but the more I thought about it, this is the most Tekken way you could have implemented this mechanic. Because Tekken is a game about decisiveness. It's a game about, don't just throw out moves in neutral, you gotta plan what you want to do. And the idea of you having to start your string in neutral by going, bet I'm gonna go into heat mode, is pretty much the most Tekken way you could have done this. It also solves another big problem, which is the Mind Goblin aspect. So heat mode works a lot like Overdrive in BlazBlue. You activate it once per round, your character gets a bunch of buffs, including a special move that you can do out of it, which we'll get into later. My biggest problem with that is that in other games, it just means I don't use it because I have the little Mind Goblin in my head that says, no, don't waste it now. What if you need it for later? It should be noted that all the heat engage moves, they are all important to your character's game plan. So if you're playing your character properly, you are going to probably do a heat engage pretty early on in the match. As someone who is afraid of spending resources, this is really good because it's like, yo, go in, get in there. It also helps that once you are in heat mode, guess what stops the meter from going down? It's pressing buttons. Some characters' heat modes are freaking terrifying, like King. King has what's called the Jaguar Dash, and when he's in heat mode, it has armor. Basically, it turns King from Zangief into Potemkin. He also manages to regain heat every time he does command grabs in heat. Like, this is a great example of just how important heat is for certain characters because yeah, it puts you on the offensive. Your opponent also has no way to really lame it out. If you try to give yourself a slow recovery, for example, heat will just stop going down. The only way you're going to waste your opponent's heat gauge is if you somehow steal your turn back from them, like say using a power crush. The other thing is, what else can you do when you're in heat mode? Depending on how you activate your heat mode, you get 1 or 2 pips. If you do a heat burst, it is just 1 pip. If you do a heat engage, you get 2. So the first thing you can spend it on is this thing called heat dash. Now this is something that you'll see a lot of modern fighting games have. You see it in Street Fighter 6, they call it drive rush there. Street Fighter 5 had it, V-shift. It is literally just dash cancel your attacks and move forwards. This is the biggest sign of how aggressive fighting games have gotten when you do this because it literally allows you to cancel certain moves into a dash forwards, letting you close the distance even further. This is the closest thing you're gonna get to a Roman cancel in this game. The other thing is the heat smash. This replaces your rage drive. It's kind of like an EX move and it will consume however much meter it can. Basically you want to save this for the end because once you do your rage drive, bam, you're out of heat mode. Admittedly, the heat smash is probably the hardest thing to wrap your head around because, you want to be able to study the individual properties of each heat smash and figure out when's the best time to use them. It's kind of the same reason I rarely ever use rage drives in Tekken 7. because there is a lot of research to go into it, and unfortunately that's just Tekken. Meanwhile, Heat Dash is just some great bunga tool. You just use it when you think that enemy has floated a little bit too far away from your string. Well, guess what? I'm extending the pressure now. Keywords are one of those really common marketing things in games, but you really feel it in Tekken. Like, Harada-san and the rest of the team literally looked at Tekken and went, you know what? Maybe it's time for more violence. They've made Heat mode so strong that like the idea of someone starting around by popping their Heat is terrifying, because you know, these characters all get so much more powerful. By the way, speaking of people's Heat mode buffs, I want to give a special shout out to Kazuya and Jin, who just get to do Electric Wind God Fist like without having to care about the timing. It's pretty sick and pretty terrifying. But guess what? None of that involves playing defensively. It means countering your opponent's offense, which again is the most Tekken way of doing things. It's not something like countering Soul's Dragon installed in Xrd where you can run the clock. You have to engage in the game if you want to stay alive. It doesn't help that the game has that universal grey health mechanic where you can regain health Bloodborne style by just hitting the opponent. Like, this is a really huge step for Tekken when you consider how just defense oriented 7 is. It also helps that it's anime as heck. I mean, just look at Jin. Jin looks like a BlazBlue character now. He does the freaking wing stuff when he wins. It's great. I've always associated Tekken with this very kind of grounded martial arts kind of style, because it's what Tekken players want you to think when they think of Tekken. You know, they're all just like, ooh, Tekken is an anime nonsense. Well, 8 is. 8 is, and it looks great. Jin's doing all sorts of stuff like growing wings and having like red aura explosions. Kazuya can literally pop his devil trigger mid-attack for some of his moves, and then for both of their Heat modes they go into their devil forms. Like, it's just visually interesting. Tekken tends to be more the game about the martial arts men fighting each other and the occasional robot chainsaw girl, but 8 is definitely being more bold with that by having more fun stuff. I mean, Nina has a gun! Like, sure, you can do an Electric Wind God Fist, but what's that gonna do once I bring out the Second Amendment? I should point out that the other thing they showed us was also the special style. This is kind of the game's easy mode or auto mode for other fighting game fans. So basically, instead of doing the traditional Tekken way of, you know, left arm, left leg, right leg, the 4 buttons instead become special move, juggle, power crush, and low. It has broken Tekken down into its most simple basic. Harada himself has told us that he doesn't want this mode to be just for beginners. He said to also view it as kind of like a way to teach people to play new characters. That's basically how you should break down every character. You know, what's their special move, what's their juggle, what's their power crush, what's their low. So for example, I have no idea how to play King, but the special style is going to give me a pretty rough idea of how to do it. Admittedly though, it is not as deep once you play it in special style, because your special moves are limited to 1 button. Sometimes they're good buttons. For example, Kazuya's special move when he does special style is a straight up Electric Wind God Fist. But once you want to start getting better, that's not gonna be enough for you, and you're going to want to have access to the rest of his moves. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, Tekken 8 is looking pretty good. It's very rare that a sequel to a fighting game like just fixes all my specific gripes with the game. All it's really missing now is Alyssa, and listen, the game doesn't have a release date. So I'm not saying that there's a lot of time for them to reconsider and put Alyssa in base roster, or maybe she's already there, I don't know. But, you know, chainsaws, I'm just saying Harada, chainsaws. Who's your favorite Tekken character, and why is it King? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Wan Amirul from Game Braves, and yeah, shoutouts to Bandai Namco for letting me go check out Tekken 8. It was a lot of fun, and I really can't wait for this one to come out. Take care, guys. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Don't forget to give us a subscribe if you'd like to see more, And like so we know what kind of content you want to see. Got suggestions for new content? Let us know in the comments below too. Thank you so much again for watching. Take care, dudes.